11, and we're going to call this October 1st Brooklyn Borough Board meeting to order. We're going to call the roll. Community Board 1. Community Board 2. Community Board 3. Community Board 4. Community Board 5.
Present.
Community Board 6. Community Board 7. Community Board 8. Community Board 9.
Fred Baptiste, CB9 Chairperson.
Thank you. Community Board 10.
Present.
Name, please. Thank you. Community Board 11. Community Board 12. Community Board 13. Community Board 14.
Present.
Community Board 15.
Present.
Community Board 16.
Present.
Your name?
Margaret Brewer.
Community Board 17. Community Board 18. Council District 33. Your name? Thank you. Council District 34. Council District 35. Council District 36.
Present.
Your name, please?
Michelle Bates.
Thank you. Council District 37. Council District 38. Council District 39. Council District 40. Council District 41.
I am the board member.
Thank you. Council District 42.
Michael Lambert on behalf of Councilor Chris Banks, present.
Thank you very much. Council District 43.
Here, Jane Pilliance on behalf of Susan John.
Thank you. Council District 44. Council District 45. Council District 46.
Present, Diane Joseph.
Thank you. Council District 47.
Present,
Thank you. Council District 48.
Present, Sasha Bellows.
Thank you very much. Council District 50. And for the Brooklyn Borough President, present, General Counsel Karina Lozada. I want to reflect for the record that Chair for CB16 is present. We have 16 present, so right now we don't make a quorum, but we're going to proceed with the presentations to give us time. If we do make a quorum, we'll proceed with the agenda so we can do business. If not, then we will have an early adjournment. So we ask for New York State DEC to come up.
Hello, good evening, everyone. My name is Adriana Espinosa. I'm Deputy Commissioner for Equity and Justice at the State Department of Environmental Conservation. So my portfolio includes our environmental justice and climate justice work, our diversity and inclusion work, and accessibility for the agency as well. I'm here just to give a really brief update on a community air monitoring program that we have briefed the borough before previously, and also to just promote a future major public event that we're going to have here in Borough Hall next Thursday. So we just spent over a year working on the state's largest ever community air monitoring initiative. It was mandated as part of the state's Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act. It was required to do air monitoring in 4 disadvantaged communities across the state. With funding from the governor, we were able to stretch that to 10 communities, and so our Division of Air Resources worked to identify 10 communities across the state by air pollution. Many communities within the borough of Brooklyn were flagged as part of the study for that process. We're really thrilled to have been working with the Borough President's Office since the beginning to both define the boundaries of the study, help to inform our community outreach, and now we've just wrapped up a year-long monitoring. These are hyper-local, block-by-block monitoring that happened over the course of a year, different times of day, different days of the year, different seasons, to get a sense of what air pollution looks like in these overburdened neighborhoods. And about 3 weeks ago or so, we released the data, and we have interactive story maps online where you can go and zoom in to whatever neighborhoods in the study area, and you can see the results of the 12 pollutants that we monitored for. So we monitored for things like particulate matter, methane, and a number of other pollutants. Like I said, a large part of Brooklyn was included in the study. We have a map available online, and I'm happy to help you navigate to that map. But in general, large parts of central Brooklyn, some in southern Brooklyn as well, and pretty much all of Greenpoint and Williamsburg came up as overburdened, as well as Sunset Park. So large swaths again of the borough. Brownsville, as well as Cypress Hills. And now we are entering into phase 2 of this process. And phase 2, we're required under law to develop statewide mitigation strategies. So to look at the data that we collected and develop solutions, both for the communities in the study, but also statewide, to mitigate air pollution. And we want to make sure that that effort is informed by the priorities for people who live in the neighborhoods that we did these studies in, and that is why we're really thankful to have the partnership of the Borough President's team to help us do so. So next week, next Thursday, here in this room at 6 p.m., my team from Albany will be here having a public meeting on the community air monitoring effort. There will be sort of 2 parts. The first part, we will have a large team of research scientists with lots of laptops here set up so that they can sit down with you, answer any questions that you may have, teach you how to use the online tools that we developed and how to understand the data. So we'll spend about an hour just providing that workshop for folks, and then we'll move into a presentation where we'll present to you what are our key takeaways that our research team has and how do you get involved in next steps. So we are, just to not to get too ahead of ourselves, to tease out what I'm looking at for our next steps here. So we're hoping to build a statewide community advisory committee that can help to make sure that priorities from Brooklynites and from others in the study area are on the table for statewide mitigation strategies. And then we'll also be building an interagency working group where we will have not only state agencies, but hoping to bring city agencies and municipalities as well to the table, in recognition that some of the solutions that we will have, that we may come up with, may stretch beyond the jurisdiction of my agency, but how do we bring folks like our NYSERDA, the Energy Research and Development arm of the state, and transportation, and MTA, and others. And so we hope to build those, build a big table to get this done, and also hoping to planning to fund those mitigation strategies with resources from the Environmental Bond Act, which passed last year. We've got $4.2 billion in spending thanks to the voters, and we're hoping to be able to use some of those fundings to fund initiatives that come out of this program, as well as the statewide Cap and Invest program, which is under development right now. So those are the two revenue streams that will be behind this effort. So happy to stop there. Really would love to see you all and your community boards and your members, and would love your help getting the word out about the event next Thursday here in Borough Hall, and would also be happy to follow up with you individually as well, but I'll open it up for questions now. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Alice Loman, Community Board 5. The first question I have is, how did you pick the locations that you picked? And the second one was, I heard you speak about Brownsville, but I didn't hear you say anything about East New York. You know, the population with the buses, we have MTA buses, we have the yellow buses, you know, do we fit in, or are you considering us, or?
Yes, so I do believe East New York is also included in the study area. And like I said, I'm happy to help pull up a map so you can see exactly what those boundaries are. But to answer the first question that you had, how do we choose the boundaries? So it's a couple of different layers. So the law requires us to do this study in what is termed disadvantaged communities. That's a term from the law. And so we have a statewide disadvantaged communities map. And so we started first with that map. And then our research team looked specifically at 12 different indicators that are related to air pollution, 12 indicators that make up that map, and then we looked which areas of the state score highest for just those 12 air pollution burdens. And then we took that to some public meetings that we held across the state, and we helped to use that to say, this is what our data shows us, has the highest air pollution burden, how does this track on the ground in your communities, and then we use that to sort of finalize exactly what the maps look like. Yes, sir.
CB4 Bushwick, I got several questions. One, does this include Bushwick? Two, which part? Three, what was analyzed? Four, what was the goal of the study?
That come through this program, like I said, the Bond Act and our Cap and Invest program we'll use that to fund state initiatives and investments that are made based off of this. But then also we wanted to ensure that we're empowering communities through this effort as well. And so my team in the Office of Environmental Justice just announced yesterday $3 million in grant funding for community-based organizations in disadvantaged communities, those who serve and work on environmental justice issues, and they're eligible for a competitive grant opportunity for their own air monitoring initiative, or to fund solutions and air pollution mitigation, or to do planning and engagement around air quality issues. So that is available right now. And I maybe missed the last question. Can you?
What is the goal of the study? How do you recommend we use this information?
Sure. So the goal of the study was to identify sources of air pollution, and so that is something that we'll present on next Thursday. Is what our research suggests are the sources of the pollution. A shocker to probably no one in this room, highways was a major source. We're also working to identify additional stationary sources, things like facilities, depots, like you referenced, the buses that are warehouse. So we'll be working to identify specific sources. And then as far as how do you use this data, we're hoping that you will use this data to work with state and local partners to develop your own priorities for how you want to see action on the pollution that was identified and how it affects your community. Make sure that those priorities are identified, help to identify solutions you want to see the state undertake. But then there certainly could be other uses as well. Some of our other partners have talked about wanting to use this in their own research, wanting to do their own air monitoring initiative and build upon what the state has found, and using it in their advocacy or community environmental planning efforts. So I think there's a lot of different types of uses for the data.
So that means they're using CBO within the community to do their own outreach?
I'm sorry, I missed the question.
That means they're using community-based organization within the community to apply for these fundings and to do the outreach themselves?
We're hoping that that's part part of the solution. Yes, certainly. I think the state is doing our own outreach as part of the reason why I'm here today, to make sure that the Borough Board is aware that this is happening, but we want to support community-based organizations as well to do their own outreach and recognition that you all are the experts in your own community. You have the connections to your neighbors oftentimes better than a state regulatory agency, so it's all of the above to reach the most amount of people possible.
Chairperson Baptiste had a question.
Good evening, Commissioner. Fred Baptiste, Brooklyn Community Board 9. The question I have is, so I understand that there were a number of communities that were targeted for the study, so the results are specific to those communities. Mitigation strategies, are those being targeted specifically for those communities as well, or is it something that's going to be more of a statewide focus? And I ask because I do not believe my district was, part of that study, but I think we were adjacent to a district that is there. So I think that some of the mitigation strategies might be things we might need to implement on a larger basis.
So, quick answer is including but not limited to. So we want to definitely make sure that the solutions that we're proposing as a state are targeted to improve air quality issues specifically in the communities that we have identified as part of the study, but we also recognize and help to choose the boundaries of this study, in part because they look a lot like other disadvantaged communities across the state and across the borough. And so we want to make sure that we're also recommending strategies that could be applied statewide, that could be applied to similar communities that characteristically and geographically look similar but maybe weren't included in the study. And so it's a both and, I would say. And I would also add that if there is interest in understanding air quality in an area where we didn't do the monitoring, suggesting additional places for monitoring is in and of itself a mitigation strategy or a solution that we could put on the table. So everything I think at this point is on the table.
Any other questions?
Yes, so Deputy Commissioner Espinoza, good evening, thank you for coming. So I'm Carl Henry Cesar, Chairperson of Community Board 14. I have 3 brief questions. So the first is, what is the state law that is mandating this review, and then the subsequent mitigation plans? Number 2, for the presentation and workshop that's happening next Thursday, can anybody come, or is there some sort of registration process that people need to follow? And then number 3, the workshop and the results, are those also being provided in additional languages outside of English? Thank you.
Sure. So the law that this is required from is the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act, or Climate Act for short. It's our state's climate law. The second question is, anyone and everyone is welcome to attend the meeting tomorrow, and in fact I would really appreciate any help that you can provide to share the word to your neighbors and your community leaders. And the final part of the question, I believe some of our materials and fact sheets are translated into Spanish and Mandarin. I don't think so far we have anyone who has requested a live interpretation, but I think that is something that we could look into procuring. I think if that's something that you think would be beneficial for the meeting. We will also have Spanish speakers. Some of our research team are Spanish speakers, so we'll have folks available there who can interpret.
Any other questions? No? Okay. All right. So
Thank you.
seeing none, thank you so much, Deputy Commissioner Espinoza. And we will be sending out the information to the Borough Board so that way you can share with your constituents and your members. And if you have any questions, you guys can always reach out to us. I want to state for the record that Daniel Heredia for Council District 45 has joined the meeting, and Chair Buceret from CB3 has joined the meeting, and Chair Daly has joined the meeting. We have a quorum. Look at us. So if there's no objection, we'd like to continue with the presentation. presentations, and then we can go to our business as usual. Okay, so seeing none, we invite our New York City Mayor's Office of People with Disabilities to present with us.
Hi everyone, I'm Emily Sweet. I'm General Counsel at the New York City Mayor's Office for People with Disabilities. And I'm here with my colleague Crystal Rivera, who is the Disability Service Facilitator for for the whole Mayor's Office. So Mayor's Office for People with Disabilities is known widely as MOPD, if I let that slip. Yeah. Oh. Okay. Yeah, sure. Okay, so I'm here to tell you about Local Law 12 of 2023, which requires every city agency to develop a 5-year accessibility plan. And the law department, the New York City Law Department, has determined that community boards are agencies within the meaning of this law. So this is something that the community boards are going to have to comply with. And we want to make this a meaningful process for you guys, something that's going to bring about positive change and that isn't going to be too much of a burden, and that you can all learn a lot and make your activities, programs, services, meetings, websites, everything more accessible and inclusive for people with disabilities. So, as I was saying, Local Law 12 of 2023, it requires each agency to develop a 5-year accessibility plan. So this plan, and this is all under the statute, has to include the steps that your community board is taking now to become more accessible and inclusive, as well as your plans going forward. So it's describing the current status and also the plan going forward. And information, the plan has to include information regarding different areas of accessibility. So sometimes for some people, the most obvious thing that comes to mind is physical accessibility, but there's other aspects of accessibility that we're gonna talk a little bit more about today. So there's also digital accessibility. Is your website or your electronic documents accessible? Meaning for someone who's blind or low vision, for example, is it compatible with a screen reader? Do you have effective communication for people with disabilities? Do you have the ability to, if you need to provide a sign language interpreter for someone, do you know how to do that? And do you have the mechanisms in place to do that? Okay, so the timeline for this plan is a little bit up in the air. The statutory deadline has actually already passed, but we want to work with you guys to come up with a reasonable time frame for doing this. So the only deadline right now is, that we know for sure, is November 1, 2024, to post a website accessibility statement and other information on your website about accessibility, including designating a contact person about accessibility. So with the district manager, with the community boards, I know you only have 2 paid staff members, so designating one of those, right? So it's pretty basic. We have a template and we'll provide you with the template. The other timelines are to be determined, but under the statute, you're going to have to at some point post a proposed plan and circulate it for public comment, post a final plan after the public comment period, post annual progress reports, and there's also a requirement that the plan is updated every 3 years. So the immediate next steps, the first one is the one I mentioned, posting the accessibility information on your website, and that's just a template and we'll provide it to you. After that, we're going to provide self-evaluation forms so you can take a look at your programs and services and your meetings and evaluate where there's room for improvement. Then based on those evaluations, you're going to determine what the barriers are and how you're going to address them, and that's when you publish your proposed plan for public comment. And we're not going to go beyond that right now, so those are the first 3 steps. Okay, and the self-evaluations. So we use a term called DWEP, D-W-E-P-P, to help us remember the 5 areas that have to be included in this plan and the 5 areas of accessibility. And I'm going to turn this over to my colleague Crystal to tell you about the web.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. So the web is digital accessibility. That can include the accessibility of your website, any web pages, any digital documents. This would make it easier for screen readers to access your website, or let's say your color contrast being correct for people with low vision. Workplace inclusion is the W, and that would mean, is your community board friendly for people with disabilities to join your meetings, and do you provide disability etiquette and awareness for your employees? The E is effective communication. Do you have policies and procedures in place for people that might need ASL or card services? Another aspect of effective communication could be, are your flyers and materials in plain language and easy to understand? Physical accessibility is the first P, and that means, do you conduct business in venues that are accessible for people with disabilities, meaning barrier-free, have elevators and easy access to them? And programmatic access is sort of like a catch-all, and it means, are your programs, services, and resources accessible and friendly for users with disabilities? So that's the web.
Thank you, Crystal. So we have these self-evaluation forms which we're going to adapt for the community boards, make them specific for the community boards, to conduct these evaluations in each of these 5 areas. Okay, we also have a template for the plan which we're going to try to adapt and make easy for community boards. Just a little bit of background. So as I said, the statutory deadline had already passed. We actually didn't realize that community boards were covered by the plan. So 57 city agencies have already published accessibility plans. So we have some experience with helping agencies with this. We realize that community boards are a little bit different, but 57 agencies have been through this process. We've gotten a lot of positive feedback from them. That it has actually been a really valuable process. So we hope that it'll be a valuable process for you as well, and we'll do what we can to make it so. And we do provide trainings, and so we'll provide trainings, and we're not just going to throw the self-evaluation forms at you. So, okay, and so here, let's see if I can read this. So here are some, just so you have a sense of what this will be distributed, and we'll be providing trainings of some of the resources that are available. As I mentioned, we're going to be providing the accessibility page template to you, the self-evaluation tools, a plan template. We're going to provide trainings. There's also a local Law 12 intranet site that has some helpful resources, but that's only for the boards that are on the city's intranet. And I understand some boards are and some boards aren't, but don't worry, we'll provide all the materials, but there is a handy website if you have access to that. There's also a website run by the Department of Justice called ada.gov. ADA stands for the Americans with Disabilities Act. There's another helpful website, adata.org, which is federally funded regional organizations that provide technical assistance on accessibility issues. And I think the TA probably stands for technical assistance. We also have a wonderful person on our staff named Arthur Jacobs, who's our digital accessibility coordinator, and he has developed a bunch of very helpful digital accessibility guides, how to make your social media accessible, how to make your documents, electronic documents accessible. We also have a website that Arthur also created, which has all the agency plans that have been published so far posted there, so you can look at what the other agencies have done. And of interest to you might be the New York City disability data. We have statistics that the Department of City Planning put together. And so in Brooklyn, there's almost 280,000 people who have self-identified as having one or more disabilities, so that's about 10%, I think it's more than 10% of your population. So, and finally, last but not least, we are here for you. So you can reach out to Crystal or me at dsf@cityhall.nyc.gov. Our phone numbers, we have Arthur, who I mentioned. We also have a architect on staff, who's our physical accessibility expert, James Irvin, and we have some contacts from the Brooklyn Borough President's Office, including Karina, who have already been through this process. So, any questions? Lots of questions. Okay. Michelle, I can just use this mic, right?
Oh, yeah, if you want.
I don't
know who's first.
Choose, man, choose.
Because I spoke them first. Roger Bailey, Community Board 17 Chair. Two things. How immediate do the boards have to be trained?
So we're trying to work out a reasonable timeline because we actually got a lot. This is the final community board that we are presenting at, and we got a lot of pushback. So we really want to make this, we want you to do something meaningful. So it's not. So the question is, when will these trainings be? I'm thinking this spring, but it's TBD.
Because you said something should be done by November 1st.
Yeah, there's one thing that's just posting something on your website, and we'll provide the template. That's November 1.
You're going to provide a template?
Yes.
Two, my second question is, you mentioned somebody has to be designated. Does that person have to be a staff member, or is it a board member? Who would be the person? Because right now, I'm really understaffed, and I'm looking to get more staff. So I need to know.
So this is really a contact person if someone has accessibility needs. So it really shouldn't be, there's always been an obligation, not always, but for decades there's been an obligation to accommodate people with disabilities. So this is just about designating a contact person so if someone does need an accommodation that they know who to contact. So it's really not that's what it is. So we're not going to dictate who that is. We were envisioning that it would probably be the district manager, but we don't know. That's up to you.
All right, and my last question is, we're in the process of moving. How does that affect, if we're in the process of looking at a place to move, which we literally restarted the process, how does that affect the old place in comparison? I understand the new place would have to be, but what about the old place? Knowing that the city takes so long to move to begin with.
I see what you're saying. So you mean you don't know exactly when you'll be moving? Yeah, we can, these are the kinds of things that we can talk about. We're here and we've been providing guidance to agencies, so I think that's something we could just talk about when the time comes. I don't have an answer off the top of my head for that.
Teresa Scavo, Community Board 15.
Hello.
We don't have direct access to our own websites.
Okay.
So how are we going to make it more accessible when someone else is in control of it?
Okay. So is your website hosted by the city?
Yes.
Okay. So the city has provided an accessible platform for city agencies on the websites that are hosted by them. But you're responsible for making sure that the content you post there is accessible. And if this doesn't make sense to you, it will after Arthur's trainings.
Okay, thank you.
CB4, I have a couple of questions. The board district office is in the HR building. Are we under the same umbrella of their plan, or do we prepare a separate one?
So you're in an HRA building?
Correct.
So HRA is, again, I think we could talk separately about this, but there are situations where city agencies, where the common areas are one agency's responsibility, but usually, and there's some exceptions to this, usually your own offices are your own responsibility. But we'd have to look at everything on a case-by-case basis. You'd probably have some conversations with HRA about this. So I again, can't give you just a answer off the top of my head, but those are some of the scenarios that we've seen.
Is there a template or model plan for the community boards to reference?
So we do have a template that we provided to the other city agencies. We're thinking about actually modifying it for the community boards, but in the meantime, you can look at the nyc.gov/access.
Presentation to the boards for recognition.
Sure. So you can look, there's a website where where the 57 agencies have already posted plans, so you can take a look at that to get a sense of what they look like.
Alice Loman, Community Board 5. Will you be able to provide this presentation to the community boards, to the chairs and the district managers of the community boards, 1? And 2, how can you assist me with, I have a board member that is in a wheelchair that cannot come to any meetings because we're in a building with NYPD, which is another city agency, and the lift hasn't worked for 2 years.
Wow.
So
Okay.
I've been talking to, Greg Lewis. I'm sorry, he's been helping me out as far as legally what we can do. We don't have the capacity where we can have a laptop where she can join the meeting that way. So this training, this website is excellent, but how can the mayor make sure that the buildings that we're in, that's already city agencies, it is in compliance so that we can have people come to our meetings? And we're talking about a board member that has not been able to come to any of our meetings in the last session because the lift is broken for 2 years because it's fitted for the old wheelchairs. So these new wheelchairs have these heavy batteries, and then the person themselves, and then all that way together, it doesn't work. NYPD is pointing the finger at every office. Nobody wants to take responsibility of helping us get this matter. So if we're gonna be proponents and champions for the disabled, we gotta be proponents and champions for them straight across the board. They gotta be able to come into these buildings, come into these meetings, be able to access the websites, like you're saying. So it's more than just the website.
Oh, of course. Yeah, this is Crystal.
Yes, as you can see, I totally understand where you're coming from. I've been a wheelchair user my whole life, and I am the DSF for the mayor's office. So that issue that you are bringing up to us is highly important to my portfolio at MOPD. So if you have details about that, you could feel free to send it to us via the DSF email, and I will share with the Disability Service Facilitator at NYPD to see what we can do to address that. The reason why I was looking at Emily is that we went through that similar issue recently with a lift when I was going to a meeting, so trust me, I understand. And please send that to us as soon as you can so we could address that and find a solution for you.
Thank you.
Do you have our contact information, or do you want to give me your card? Or you want to write it down? Do you want to write it down?
Sure.
Okay. D as in David, S as in Sam, F as in, where that came from, Frank, at cityhall.nyc.gov.
D as in David.
S as in Sam, F as in Frank.
At City Hall.
.nyc.gov. And let me take your card too, just to be safe.
I'll give you mine.
Okay.
I don't have a card.
Oh, okay, your information.
Chairperson Morgan, and then Chairperson Muser.
Good evening, Janice Morgan, CB16. I appreciate Macho's question about these location in other city buildings because I'm a little bit concerned that we're the last to know that we have to comply. Some
So they were on a very tight time frame. As you can see, it was the local law 12 of 2023. It was enacted in January 2023, and by the end of the calendar year, they had to have their plans. And it was new to us as well, right? Like, we didn't have much advance warning that this was coming. So it took us a while to develop these self-evaluation tools. So really, we didn't get started until, I think we got started in about June or July of 2023. So they had about 6 months. Some of them took a little longer, but we want to give you a reasonable time frame.
Yeah, because I think at minimum, we should be allowed to have whatever amount of time they were given.
Mm-hmm.
We should be given that time from the time we're being notified, which technically, I mean, some boards are not even here, so they're behind the 8 ball a little bit, so we would need that much time. Then I think the fact that some of us are located in city buildings, that needs to be taken into consideration. I know some boards are not in city buildings, and so they may have a little bit more work to do, but as if we're located within a city building, then there's some information that is already templated, and so those agencies should be required to provide us with their plan, and then we begin to modify from there based on whatever our unique operations are. The other thing is, I believe most of us are working with DCAS on our leases for our buildings, and so I think they should be moved into this conversation.
Certainly.
Because when it comes to the accessibility of the buildings, they should be making sure that they're helping us to comply with, you know, the lifts and all of those things as they're negotiating these leases. And in the event that something breaks or something, they should also be helping to make sure it's fixed by liaisoning with the landlord, etc., because they're helping to negotiate these leases. Because this really is something serious, and it's very concerning that Alice is saying she had a board member that couldn't attend meetings for 2 years. Like, come on.
Yeah, that's terrible.
CBU Chair, Buser.
Good evening, Anthony Buser with Community Board 3. As Chair Morgan said, we're in a building that isn't owned by the city. And one of the challenges we already have is that there are no accessible bathrooms in the entire space. I'm wondering, so my question is, understanding that we have to have a plan, you have a 5-year plan, is there a funding mechanism behind this to support the plans? So if there needs to be any renovations to these spaces as city agencies, is the city going to support that? But also, is there going to be some support around finding, one of the challenges we have in Bed-Stuy is that we don't have many spaces large enough to host our meetings that aren't churches and those sorts of things, and that causes a whole other issue, right? So I'm curious, is the city going to support community boards and identifying physical locations that we can host meetings that comply with these movements?
So we have heard that question, and we don't have an answer to that yet, but we'll certainly be advocates for that here at MOPD.
I wanted to know, this is expected to be a mandate?
It is a mandate. It's a local law, and the law department did advise that community boards are covered by the local law.
I would love to advise to the mayor's office that community boards should be taken better care of. You're asking us, not that it's unfair at all, it should be. However, we have such a struggle with everything we have to do, limited budgets, with Community Board 16, we don't have an office. We've been meeting at a church in the community. We have no district manager. We should be taken better care of. Please take that back. Not at all, that we should not be doing this. But when you look at our city, us as an agency, the community boards, should be taken better care of.
Chair David.
It's along the same lines. If there has to be alterations in building, and we have a finite budget, right? And just expect, where's this money coming from?
Those are all great questions.
So I think from my purview, before something can become a law, it's like an unfunded mandate. We can't continue doing unfunded mandates.
So what's new is the requirement to develop a 5-year plan. The requirement to make your program services and activities accessible has been around for decades.
That, we understand that, but if your, let's say your office is not, or whatever it
Right,
is.
and I understand it's easier said than done.
Right,
Yeah.
so along with the law should come a funding to ensure, because even if you have to assess, you have to bring somebody in, right? You gotta pay that person, right, to assess whatever needs to be done, right? If you need to do anything, I think one of my sisters over there said that the lift wasn't working, right? It's gonna cost money to fix that, right? So I'm just curious as to allocation of the budget. Obviously, I agree that it should be done. I'm clearly not stating that. But I'm also stating that if we ain't got no money, if you're not on, you're not on. Just so.
Chair Baptiste.
Thank you very much. I just want to make sure I'm clear. So now the ask is for the boards to develop a 5-year plan. So at the end of this 5 years, is the goal to make sure that all boards are ADA compliant or accessible, are accessible by 5 years? Or?
I mean, I think every board would have to set its own, your programs and activities have to be accessible, right? So whether your facility is ADA compliant, maybe you can't make your facility ADA compliant. Maybe that means that when your lease is up, you're going to be looking for a different space, right? So no, there's no that should be the goal, but no, that's not written into the plan that everything has to be 100% accessible by the end of this.
So at the very least, we should be able to identify if there are dependencies. So it's like if it's a facilities thing, that's a dependency that we'll have to try and mitigate.
Correct.
But otherwise, that's a DCAS issue that we'll have to work with them, or there might be additional funding that might still happen.
We'll see.
Hello, this is Chair Jeff Sanoff, CB13. Can I add my thoughts about this?
Sure, Chair. Go ahead.
Can you raise your hand? I'm having trouble seeing who. Oh, over there again.
Chair Sanoff, you threw us all for a loop. But go ahead.
Okay.
You can go virtual?
Our building is also in a private location, private owner, and we had a new member who's also in a wheelchair, and right away I got on with the landlord, and I told the landlord that we need a ramp. It was only about 2 inches, but it's still very difficult for a wheelchair to access that 2 inches. And I said, you must do this to be compliant with the ADA government rules, and if you're not, I'm going to be calling the borough president and DOB. And within 1 week, we had the ramp installed. So sometimes you have to put pressure on the landlord to take care of this issue.
Correct.
Any other questions? Okay, so we want to thank Emily and Crystal for being here with us for that comprehensive presentation. As Emily stated, myself and Rokia, who's our EEO officer, can be of assistance. I did reach out last year to let boards know that this was coming down. It was still kind of in the air what version you guys were going to do, but I did our office's plan here as a resource. Rokia is here as a resource. And any of your nuances, we can also help you try to deal with those issues and kind of think strategically about that. I do want to remind you guys, DWEP is not just about the physical space, there are other aspects. And so even if you're a city building and you might need some assistance with that, there's other ways to make sure that you're hitting your accessibility nails, okay? All right, so I want to jump back to our programming. It is now 7:02. Thank you guys so much. And so we're gonna move for the approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve agenda as
Thank
printed.
you, Chair Scavo. Do I have a second? Thank you, Chair Baptiste, for the second. Are there any objections for the approval of the minutes?
No, objective.
I mean, the agenda, sorry.
Yeah.
No objections? Okay. By unanimous consent, the agenda is approved. Chair Daly, you have a
No,
question?
just about the minutes.
Okay, we're gonna get to the minutes now. We're moving to item 3, approval of the September 3rd, 2024 minutes. Do we have any discussion or any amendments to the minutes?
My last name is D-A-L-E-Y.
So no Chair Daly. Our apologies.
Okay.
Any other changes, amendments, additions, edits, questions, concerns? Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the September 3rd, 2024 minutes, including the correction of Chair Daly's last name?
Motion to approve minutes as printed, except with the change of Mr. Daly's spelling.
Thank you, Chair Scavo. Do I have a second?
Daily, Chair, 17.
Thank you, Chairperson Daly. Are there any objections to the approval of the minutes, including the changes? Seeing none, the minutes for September 3rd are approved. And now we're going to move on to Borough Hall updates. So I'll ask Stevenson.
Good night, everyone. Okay, good night, everyone. Okay, here are Borough Hall's October announcements. The community board application season is slated to open very shortly. It's going to be a few weeks earlier than last year. And the applications will close on February the 7th, 2025 promptly with no extension. So we do request that community boards submit the attendance rolls by January the 30th on the standardized template that we provided to you. If you need it, you can touch base with Caroline or myself and we can resend it to you. And also, please remind your members if their contact information changes, let us know, because we're going to be emailing them from time to time to remind them to reapply. Thursday, November 7th, 2024, that's a rescheduled date for November's Borough Board meeting due to the election. So please take a note of that. Thursday, November 7th is the next time we're going to meet here as a Borough Board. And we were really excited. We had a great turnout for this month's board members meeting, the Boards of Standards and Appeal workshop. That was really good. We have another workshop on the State Liquor Authority, and that's on October the 31st. We will be sending out information so that you can help us get the word out to your members. And finally, on October the 15th at 6 p.m., Borough President Reynoso will host a deed theft workshop at Medgar Evers College, 1650 Bedford Avenue, and there are some flyers on the sign-in table. Please publicize, else we can send you also electronic flyers so you can send out to the members. So that concludes the Borough Hall October announcement.
Time on the deed.
Just a quick update, and just a quick reminder, Department of Environmental Conservation will be here next Thursday as they announced. So all are welcome. That will be here in the courtroom. Chairperson Daly, go ahead.
I'm just asking the time in Medgar.
I believe it's at 6 p.m.
Both of those workshops, the SLA workshop and on 10/31st, and then the one on 10/15, just the time.
The SLA workshop? Generally the workshops are at 6 p.m., but we will be sending some information, and the deed theft workshop is also at 6 p.m.
We'll send out the email reminder for the workshop. You guys should pick up a flyer on your way out, and we can also send that so you can provide it to your boards at your meetings. It is in 2 weeks, so in case your meeting is late, sorry, Teresa. So we can send it electronically. Okay.
Yes, a little bit talkative this week. It's all right. On October 19th, on Utica Avenue between Linden and Church, border my neighbor over here, Community Board 9, we'll be having a community/street fair where we have agencies coming in to talk to the community. So about whatever you need. So we have several different agencies coming out, have the issues, to whatever issues you have to come out and discuss it, as well as other opportunities for entertainment for the family. This Saturday, October 19th, from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Also, if you have an agency that you want to come, or you yourself have something that you want to express to the community, you can come out to do that as well. All right, and the second announcement is that we're partnering with Nancy Katz, with the community board, to do a farmers market in our community at my 11 IS-285. That will be on Saturday as soon as the flyer is out. Please, we'll send it out on the website as well. So we'll start on that. Thank you.
Chairperson Camacho.
Yeah,
Wait for the mic, please.
see, before Camacho, I'm just a little concerned with the city council intro 1065, I think you're aware of, which will create a 4-year term limit for district managers and removal by the borough president at will. I have a lot of concern about this and plan to testify if gets a hearing. But we have a lot of issues going on that now we're term limiting. I don't know who created this. I think these elected officials wake up the next day and say, I'm going to create a new law. All of a sudden, they don't come back to the peers that put them in place and gave them the power to be there. So I think this borough president should address this. I don't know why it hasn't been out for everyone. If it goes or doesn't go, information is key, because we want ourselves, if no one here likes their district manager or not doing his job, maybe chairperson should start doing theirs and put memos or start writing them up. But I don't think that they should be term limited and other people decide. I think each board has their own criteria in regard when it comes to their district managers, that we don't need nobody to be supervising us. Is there any information on that or feedback?
We would have to get back to the team and get back to the chairs and the borough board.
I hope it don't go on the X file and disappears, because I see that, and I also see that on election day there's going to be referendums in the back that we must vote on, and I don't hear nobody sending flyers out and letting our community know that things back there can hurt some of us or not. Because if it was their job that was up on the line, they'll be the first one to tell you, turn the back of the vote and make sure. So let's be realistic. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson Camacho. Are there any more Brooklyn board member updates? Chairperson Baptiste, thank you.
Chair Camacho kind of stole some of the thunder from me as well. I definitely heard about that. I wanted to thank one of the fellow chairs who shared that information. I think that's a critical issue, and I'm a little bit disappointed that that's not even a conversation that was had with us as were the affected agencies. So I wanted to know if it was possible for a request to be made for a presentation to be made to the Borough Board next month and add that to the agenda to explain this legislation, what the purpose and what the meaning is behind this, and also give us an opportunity to address it as well. I think, as chairpersons of the district board, of the community boards, it's important for us to have that insight. And I think it's a respect matter as well, but we should be consulting on this. Second item I have is I just want to do a quick public service announcement with regards to the Brooklyn Veterans Appreciation Parade and Resource Fair. It's scheduled for Saturday, October 26th it's coming up right around the corner. So this is an opportunity for us to honor our local veterans, our Brooklyn heroes. So this is being supported by Brooklyn Community Board 9, the Buffalo Soldiers Association, Borough Hall is also a sponsor, I believe, as well, and a number of other community-based organizations. So I'm inviting everyone to come out and support. As I said before, there's a parade, but there's also a resource fair that is going to happen as well. That's going to culminate, I believe, at the Brooklyn Public Library, and it's an opportunity for veterans to be able to speak to people to make sure they can get resources, to get access to the things they're qualified for because of service. So I invite everyone to come out for that. Thank you.
Where in town?
It's going to be, okay, it's going to start stepping off from Rogers Avenue and Eastern Parkway, marching down to Grand Army Plaza. It's going to start at 11 a.m. Again, the date is Saturday, October 26th. I can try and make sure, if we pass a flyer, would Borough Hall be able to send it to all the chairs? Okay, so we'll make sure we distribute that.
Thank you.
So Chairperson Baptiste, I wanted to flesh out, you stated a request, is that a motion? Do you want to make a formal motion to see if your counterparts want to vote to request the presentation? And whom are we reaching out to request that presentation? Do you want Borough Hall to make the presentation? Council? Please flesh out the motion.
No, absolutely. So I move that the Brooklyn Borough Board request that the City Council do a presentation for the Borough Board on Intro 1065 at the November Borough Board meeting.
I second, I've come out to see before.
I'm going to make a roll call vote. Is there any discussion first? Okay, the motion's been made and seconded. Community Board 1. Community Board 2. Community Board 3.
Yes.
Community Board 4.
Yep.
Community Board 5.
Yes.
Community Board 6. Community Board 7. Community Board 8. Community Board 9.
Yes.
Community Board 10.
Yes.
Community Board 11. Community Board 12. Community Board 13. Community Board 14.
Yes.
Community Board 15.
No.
Community Board 16.
Yes.
Community Board 17.
Yes.
Community Board 18. Council District 33. Absent. Council District 34. Council District 35. Council District 36. Council District 37. Council District 38. Council District 39. Council District 40. Council District 41. Council District 42.
Repeat the motion, please.
The motion is for a request from the Borough Board to the City Council to present on this law at the November Brooklyn Borough Board meeting. Council District 43.
Abstain.
Council District 44. Council District 45.
Abstain.
Council District 46.
Clarifying question,
Sure.
are you asking for council as a whole or asking for the prime sponsor of the bill? Because that's a difference.
So, Chairperson Baptiste, do you want to clarify on that motion that this could have been brought up in session? My understanding was that it would have been the prime sponsor, but if that needs clarity, yes. So if that needs clarity, Chairperson Baptiste, can you make that clarity for the motion? Or did everyone have that understanding?
Well, if it's going to be a technical issue where the council won't forward it to the sponsor, then that's fine. Then we can clarify to request that the sponsors, it's the sponsor or sponsors.
Sponsor or sponsors.
It should be the first one.
Sponsor.
Genuinely, when there's a bill, the first name on the bill is considered your first prime. So that's the person who introduced the bill, who spoke to them to draft the bill, and who at the end of the day could be the one who approves further edits to the bill. So the first prime gives the understanding of their bill. People who come after that are co-sponsors in support in some way, but the real main person who has the narrative behind the bill will be your very first name that you see on the bill. That's considered a first prime. Yeah, the first prime. Just
Natasha M. Williams.
to give you some context.
Natasha M. Williams, councilperson.
So for example,
That's the sponsor.
if there's a third person on the bill and you ask the third person to come speak, they're speaking on somebody else's bill. They may support it, they can tell you why they support it, but at the end of the day, you want the person who has the intention behind the bill to really speak on the bill and be introduced. If your council member signs on, you'd be like, hey council member, I want you to come speak as to why you signed on to this bill. Sorry, I'm ranting on. I just wanted clarity to be more clear on what it is. Thank you.
Okay. Do we have clarity? Because I'm a little bit fogged. I understand the backing, but I guess my assumption was that that was what the request was.
Sorry, I understood that differently.
Yeah.
I understood council versus the council member who's the first one.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. So we're clear that it's to the prime sponsor for clarity. Okay.
So that if it's to the prime sponsor, then I'll be a yes.
I'm sorry, you're 46, right? 47? 48? 50? VP's office. We're going to abstain. So it's 8 yeses, 1 no, 7 abstentions. Unfortunately, because we don't have a quorum, it doesn't carry. Do we have a motion to table it? We can table it and vote again, or we can just leave it as the motion doesn't carry.
Point of order, if we don't have quorum, we couldn't even move.
Yeah, I mean, we went through the names and 2 folks who were here left. So, no. So I want to clarify, even though Chairperson Sanoff is online, because the Borough Board did not do a virtual remote conferencing, it doesn't count as attendance for CB13. So can still, Chairperson Sanoff can still discuss as like a regular member, can be informed, but it doesn't count for the quorum or for the attendance based on the Borough Board's decision to not have a video conferencing resolution. So I did want to make that clarification from earlier. So,
I would like to make a point of some information just from some clarity. Let's hope that the people that abstain in regards to this resolution, whatever they're putting up there, that they do the same. Thank you.
no problem. Is unfortunately, we can't resume business or even move, and I do
But
apologize.
is there no way that we could put it back on for conversation for the next agenda?
Yeah, we can put it for unfinished business, because again, two members left early. Sure, Chairperson Morgan.
Could we still,
1 second.
Thank you. Could we still reach out to the sponsor of the bill and invite them to the next Borough Board meeting? And if they're okay with it, still add them to the agenda, absent the quorum tonight?
I would have to talk with the borough president and indicate that that was spoken here, but because Borough Board wants to do the invitation, and we don't have quorum to make a vote, we wouldn't be able to do it as business from the Borough Board, but the Borough President's office can do separate advocacy and say, this was brought up, we think it would be helpful if you would come to the Borough Board, and if they do express interest, then we can so sponte put them on the agenda in the same way we do regular communications. I don't want to commit to that because it would be up to the Borough President, and again, since this was brought up today, unfortunately, I don't really have the answers or any positions or anything. So I'd like to take it back to the team, discuss, and then hopefully we can reach out and try to just get them to come as in the way we regularly try to do the agendas, but as a resolution from Borough Board, as a request from Borough Board, we wouldn't be able to do that as a business item, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But we can do separate advocacy.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Madam Chair, we did a vote with no quorum, so that should count, right?
No, the vote doesn't count. As we were doing the roll call, I noticed that we didn't have a quorum, so the vote doesn't pass, the vote doesn't count because we didn't even have the quorum to do the
Next
vote.
month, if we do have a quorum, we can put it on the agenda.
Correct. So any member can reinstate this request next month. Unfortunately, because we don't have quorum, we can't really resume business, so I am going to adjourn now. And I apologize if we did have one more item, but the meeting is adjourned.
Just from a procedural standpoint, as the motion was made, does it automatically go to the table so we can bring it back up as an item of business next month?
No, it has to be motioned, and because we don't have quorum, I can put it as unfinished business for the next agenda because it is unfinished, but it doesn't automatically get tabled. So it would have to be revisited to see if someone has a motion, someone seconds, and we go through the procedure. But I will list it under the agenda. Thank you all. My apologies for your adjourn.
Good night, ladies. Good night.